3 quick questions to determine if this episode is going to be beneficial to you. You ready? Here we go. Question number 1. Have you or do you regularly listen to podcasts at 1.2, 1.5, or even twice the normal speed? Okay. Question number 2. Have you, in the past week, eaten a meal at your computer while you're working on something? Okay, I see that hand. Third question. Do you consider yourself a multitasker? I mean, you can be on a conference call, checking your email, and doing your taxes all at the same time without missing a beat. If you answered any of those 3 questions in the affirmative, this is definitely for you. Welcome to The Next Simple Step. I'm Paul Goldsmith. And today we're going to talk about 3 ways to slow down, 3 ways to overcome overwhelm in your life and work. Since we've already established that you're a busy person, I'll give you all 3 up front. Number 1, do less, better. Quality over quantity. Number 2, collaborate more, no man's an island. And number 3, get back to nature. So let's unpack all 3. Do less, better. Have you ever noticed how much more productive you get right before a holiday weekend or vacation? You tie up loose ends, turn down requests for meetings, and crank out what truly has to get done before you go. Why not do that every week? Every day? Your time is your most valuable resource. It's non-renewable. And to really get done what you need to get done, it's super helpful to remember the Pareto principle. 80% of results come from 20% of your efforts. And if you can focus on what that 20% of critical effort is every day, and then do everything in your power to eliminate the rest, either delegate, renegotiate, or delete it altogether. I understand it's easier said than done, and I'm certainly not perfect at this, but it's a great reminder from time to time that much of what you're doing is not the most productive use of your time. So what can you eliminate from your busyness this week? It's really addition by subtraction, because the more busy work that you eliminate, the more time you have to work on the stuff that really matters, the stuff that you get excited about doing. You, like me, are most likely a knowledge worker. You use your brains for your job and to earn money. And your brain needs focus, because multitasking is not real. It doesn't work. Now, you can move rapidly between tasks, but you lose so much brain power and attention every time you switch from one task to the next. Focus. Instead of FOMO, have some JOMO, joy of missing out. Because think about every extra call you take from a random phone number is time you could have spoken to a loved one or your top client or customer. Do less, but better. That's actually a design principle that I borrowed from the Braun Company. They used it as a principle for design of their products. And I love that so much. I've adopted it as a life principle. How does that work in real life? I try to make fewer decisions. One decision that eliminates a whole bunch of other decisions in the future. It's estimated that we get more than 10,000 marketing messages or ads every day. So if you pre-decide how you're going to spend your time and money, you're much less susceptible to wasting time or money on stuff you didn't want in the first place, but you were sold. If you can make one decision that eliminates 10 other variables, do it. Let me give you an example. Researchers at Cornell University estimate that we make 226 decisions each day about food. If you make a meal plan each week, you'll save your brain over 200 additional daily decisions and likely eat healthier in the process. For me, I have a protein shake and a Greek yogurt with blueberries every morning after the gym. And oh, by the way, I decide to go to the gym every morning, and I don't have to redecide. I've already decided it once, and that clears up any ambiguity. And also, when I wake up and feel a little sluggish and like, I don't feel like going to the gym today, the feelings don't factor in that I've already decided I'm going. It just makes everything easier. And it also frees me up to have more mental bandwidth to focus on other things at work and in life that require making a new decision. So the same goes for how you spend your time at work. Could you schedule time blocks for checking your email so you aren't interrupted every time some marketer or salesperson or colleague decides to hit send? That's their priority, not necessarily yours. You are responsible for your time and attention. And on the concept of time blocking, I highly recommend figuring out what your top 3 priorities are every day and scheduling them and blocking out that time to get it done. So you're going to do hundreds of things every day and make thousands of decisions. So why not pre-decide on the things most valuable to you? Do less, but better. That's the first way of overcoming overwhelm in your life and work. Number 2 is to collaborate more. Bill Gates had Paul Allen. Steve Jobs had Steve Wozniak. Walt Disney had Roy Disney. Fun fact, without Roy Disney, there would be no Disney of today. Walt was the visionary. He had all the pie in the sky ideas. Roy was the implementer. He made ideas a reality, and the partnership created a global empire. And if you're going to do less, if you're going to do fewer things, less but better, then you're going to need to delegate some things to others. And so maybe that means hiring a virtual assistant. And I've had those in the past, and it's a wonderful way of trying out working with another person and, letting them handle some of the quote unquote busy work so that you can focus in on your biggest ideals and the most important work you have at a higher level. And if you figure out how much you make, when you break it down to like an hourly rate, if you can hire somebody for less than that, say, half or a tenth of that to do some of those tasks that are not in your wheelhouse, like maybe it's the paperwork that you have to do for your particular job, then why wouldn't you do that? And I think there's a lot of fear that especially entrepreneurs have in the beginning that the cash is going to run out. And so there's a scarcity mindset that if you spend the money on an assistant that's a cost that you can control. But what you don't calculate is the cost and the expense to your own time and your well-being. And so to me, I see that as an investment. And another way of collaborating is forming partnerships or joint ventures. And in fact, when I started as an entrepreneur, I was a solopreneur. I had my own consulting company. And I realized that I had only so much time in a day. I could only meet with one client at a time. And so then I formed a partnership with 2 business partners, and that company is still thriving today. And in fact, have doubled my original income from when I became an entrepreneur just through a collaboration with others that had different skill sets and experiences. And together, we can do more work and build a great company. And so for you, I would encourage you to look for areas of collaboration. It might be somebody that's in another industry that's adjacent to yours, but you have similar target customers and you could join together in a partnership. And that's what we're looking at with our Burn Bootcamp gym. Like, are there other health and wellness businesses that aren't gyms that, we could work together to serve our customers, our members, and help them to be healthier. One reason why we're working to open a salad restaurant, and yes, we've hit a snag in the road, delays in the building where we're opening that restaurant, but we're still working to make that happen because we see the potential with that collaboration between, owning a salad restaurant, owning a gym. It's the same type of person that's going to be a customer of both. And because they have the same goal, it just makes sense. So how can you collaborate and create synergy in your own business. Maybe you've got an idea for a podcast. You could hire a podcast producer. The idea is that you find somebody with complementary skills to yours, and it also provides an accountability so that you do your part and they do their part, and together the sum is greater than the individual parts. So really, if you want to reduce overwhelm in your life, you have to have an element of humility. You can't do it all. None of us can. The more you can find ways to collaborate with others to get the job done, first of all, you'll get more done. But secondly, it's a lot more fun to bring others along for the journey. And so I'd encourage you to look for ways to collaborate more, to free up your time to focus in on what only you uniquely can do. And that brings us to the third way to overcome overwhelm in your life and work. And it's get back to nature. And if you've known me for quite some time, this might be surprising for me to share because I grew up in the Chicago area. I love the city. I love big cities. There's just an energy about them that I enjoy, the creativity that happens among the people and the buildings, and it's inspiring to me. And so I always considered myself a city person. But as I approached turning 40, I decided to really take responsibility for my health and wellness. And that started with a daily gym habit, and that started eating healthy and sticking to a sleep schedule. And I started to realize that there is a rhythm to nature, and it's not the one that is in cities that never sleep, because we were meant to sleep, especially when it's dark outside. A big part of reducing overwhelm in your life is getting outside, literally, and taking in nature. To that end, I want to share an excerpt from Rick Rubin's masterful book called The Creative Act, A Way of Being. And he writes, of all the great works that we can experience, nature is the most absolute and enduring. We can witness it change through the seasons. We can see it in the mountains, the oceans, the deserts, and the forest. We can watch the changes of the moon each night and the relationship between the moon and the stars. There's never a shortage of awe and inspiration to be found outdoors. If we dedicated our lives solely to noticing changes in natural light and shadows as the hours pass, we would constantly discover something new. We don't have to understand nature to appreciate it. This is true of all things. Simply be aware of moments when your breath gets taken away by something of great beauty. It may be witnessing a single line formation of birds snaking through a half-lit evening sky, or standing awed at the foot of a giant redwood tree that's thousands of years old. There's so much wisdom in nature that when we notice it, it awakens possibilities within us. It is through communing with nature that we move closer to our own nature. If you're picking colors based on a Pantone book, you're limited to a certain number of choices. If you step out in nature, the palette is infinite. Each rock has such a variation of color within it, we could never find a can of paint to mimic the exact same shade. Nature transcends our tendencies to label and classify, to reduce and limit. The natural world is unfathomably more rich, interwoven, and complicated than we are taught, and so much more mysterious and beautiful. Deepening our connection to nature will serve our spirit, and what serves our spirit invariably serves our artistic output. The closer we can get to the natural world, the sooner we start to realize we are not separate, and that when we create, we are not just expressing our unique individuality, but our seamless connection to an infinite oneness. There's a reason we are drawn to gazing at the ocean. It is said that the ocean provides a closer reflection of who we are than any mirror. So beautifully stated by Rick Rubin. Now, Rick is a creative genius, and I was binging his podcast and came across a guest he had on it from last year, a neurologist named Dr. Jack Kruse, and what he shared was profound. And since the podcast was like 4 hours long, and I know you're busy, I'll just give you the cliff notes right here, because it really does reinforce this idea of getting back to nature to reduce overwhelm in your life, because Dr. Kruse argues emphatically that the most basic and fundamental thing you can do to improve your health and longevity is to get enough sunlight every single day. Over food, over diet and exercise, sunlight is the most critical aspect for our well-being. And he shared that just like plants, of course, we learned that in school, they need sunlight to grow and be healthy. Why would we humans be any different? It's not just to help your body make vitamin D for strong bones and healthy immune system, but it also helps your body's natural clock get in tune. They call this the circadian rhythm. And so the morning sun tells you to wake up, and then the setting sun tells you it's time to go to sleep. And this keeps your internal clock going at a natural pace. And getting enough sunlight, especially in the morning, will help you sleep at night. And I've personally learned this to be the case. You've probably noticed day at the beach, it's not just because you're not at work, but you're out in the sun. It boosts your mood because it helps your brain make chemicals like serotonin, and it makes you feel good. It's natural energy. And Dr. Kruse goes into the immense benefits to your immune system, and he also emphasizes how important it is to reduce light exposure at night, artificial light, because that is disturbing your circadian rhythm. It's not natural, and it has all kinds of negative health consequences. Back to the Pareto principle we talked about earlier, to get the most results from the minimal amount of effort, Dr. Kruse says, never miss a sunrise. And I just love that. For me, I love early mornings playing catch with my son. And that's a great excuse to be out in nature and get that morning sun. We don't get to do it every morning, but I definitely count it a win when we do. And when we act according to how we're wired and how we're designed and get back to nature and literally get grounded, have your feet on the ground, that life just goes better. You're a little less overwhelmed. If getting out and seeing a sunrise every morning is not an option for your particular circumstance, get out when you can. Maybe take a break between meetings and take a walk outside. Slow down, soak up some sun, and this helps you to become a little bit less overwhelmed in your life and work. If you're looking for somebody to talk to, a coach, somebody to help you prioritize to do less but better, to collaborate more, or get back to nature, reach out. I'm Paul J. Goldsmith on Instagram and X, or you can book a free discovery coaching call at nextsimplestep.com. In the meantime, get some sun, and I'll talk to you next time on the Next Simple Step podcast.